Over 1.5 years ago, Protection Desk Uganda was set up in Kampala by Protection International and its local partner, the East and Horn of Africa Human Rights Defenders Project, with whom Protection International has had working relations since 2006. While East and Horn of Africa Human Rights Defenders Project Protection Program focuses its efforts on giving direct assistance to human rights defenders who have been threatened or whose rights have been violated, Protection Desk Uganda takes a preventive approach of training human rights defenders in security management and risk assessment. PDU enables defenders and their organizations to develop security plans and put in place protection measures that enhance their personal and organizational security.
We have all agreed that journalists are human rights defenders. And all human rights defenders face a risk in the work they do. And the risk is defined from the security training we do by the threats faced, vulnerabilities, and capacities. These are the weaknesses that expose you security-wise in the work you do day to day, in the print you do, and in the electronic media also.
What is happening here is that Protection Desk Uganda has invited journalists from electronic and print media to share with them the risk assessment and security importance in their day-to-day work. This is by protecting their journalists and protecting their organizations from any kind of aggression that they may encounter because of their work. This is follow-up of a training that we already did with journalists from those organizations and media houses. And when they went to implement, there was a problem because not many people in the media houses understood at that time the importance of security together, or the security plan. So this is supposed to induct the management level of the media houses so that they are aware and conscious of the security and importance of it.
The training I got from Protection Desk Uganda, it has helped me personally, on a personal note, to be very conscious. You know, I take everything very, very conscious these days. I lock my computer or shut it down every time I'm not on it. And it has helped me be aware of my environment. When I'm walking, whom am I seeing around? You never know, somebody could be following you and you're not aware, you just take it so lightly.
In Uganda, we think that they need security because it is a precedent that has been set by the government to raid media houses. They have raid print medias, the Monitor, and currently several radio stations have been closed already, culminating from the work that they do day to day. This has posed a threat to the journalists because we can see that so far this year 4 journalists has been arrested and not all of them have been charged in court, and this has posed a threat to their lives because of the work of journalism that they do in Uganda. This, we see it necessitating a security training so that whatever they do, they can be security conscious to keep more safe ground.
The Kabaka, a king in Uganda here, I was supposed to be visiting a nearby district, but the government was blocking his visit. So there was a riot all over the city, and like I always do, I went into the field, and there is when I had my toughest times, I think, ever since I joined the journalism sector. I was arrested by the military police. We call them Red Top because they put on red hats. We call them military police. They arrested me for taking a picture of one of their colleagues walking next to a dead body. I don't know how the person was killed, but I felt it worth a picture because it's not often that you see the military in the city. They accused me of going to use the picture, accusing the police, the military police, to have been the ones who have killed the body. I think the person who was right down there. But I tried to explain to them that no, this is not the case. I'm a professional photojournalist. I'll caption it as I saw it. I am not going to incite anyone because my media house will also be in for it. Do I have proof that they killed? I was not there when they were killing, so I was not certainly going to make that mistake. So as I continued to demand that I delete the picture, I turned that offer down. So they all started mistreating. Some kicked me around, some were hitting me with a baton on my hands. Luckily I didn't get as many bruises as possible because I kind of worked out a way of informing my editors of my condition, and I was released after a few hours, about 4 or 5 hours. So, but I had a couple of beatings, both from the police and the military police.
Journalists are not the only victims of human rights violations in Uganda. As the notorious anti-homosexuality bill demonstrates, Uganda's minority defenders and those that work with them are also facing high levels of risks. Protection Desk Uganda has joined a coalition of civil society organizations that has united forces against the inherent threats that this bill presents to human rights work in Uganda. On a regional level, Protection Desk works in 10 countries, from Sudan in the north to Rwanda and Burundi in the south and Somalia in the east. PDU adapts its works to very different national contexts with the common denominator of the precarious situation for human rights defenders.
Protection Desk Uganda was formed in response to the security needs of human rights defenders. Human rights defenders in this region have, of course, ideally the internationally recognized rights, but they are violated on a constant basis. Just a few examples are they're being arbitrarily arrested, some of them are disappeared, they're tortured, they face defamation, they face harassment and intimidation, and that often even includes their family members. Why do they face such challenges? I think we know that they are very prominent in their communities. They raise issues. They are the mouthpiece of vulnerable groups. They document violations, and most importantly, they try to seek justice for those whose rights have been violated. And by doing so, they step on the toes of those who have perpetrated violations, and those are often the people who are in power. We believe the role of human rights defenders is so important in society, in working towards accountability, democracy, and an end of impunity, that they need to be strengthened. And one way of strengthening them is giving them skills to manage their security. Out of experience, you can never reduce the risks of a human rights defender to zero, but by changing your behavior, by being attentive, and by involving the people who are working with you closely in your security, you can actually work more safely, and we believe you can also achieve more for the people you are defending.
A few days after a training for editors and journalists working across Uganda, the Protection Desk team is meeting to debrief.
It became quite obvious that though they are quite able to come up with measures, very few of them are implemented in real life. And this was basically a starting point for us to say, as PDU, we can offer you this. We can sensitize your staff on security issues. And once the staff is trained, they are able to work out a security plan that is going to benefit the entire organization.
The independent newspaper, the weekly newspaper, requested we give them in-house training, which we can break down in several days. That will agree with them because they feel like they are at a higher risk now. So we'll be communicating with them. And just to emphasize what you said, that the editors saw importance of security, they'll be implementing through the journalists we trained. So it was important to have the breakfast meeting.
I'd only add that it was very impressive that for the editors at least, the participants we trained gave feedback back to the editors, unlike other organizations that we train. So every editor said yes, they came back and told me about it. I know something about it. That was good.
Protection Desk Uganda at this point is comprised of 5 staff members. Those are 3 trainers who their main task is to conduct security and protection trainings for human rights defenders, which they do all over Uganda and increasingly so throughout the region. We have 1 person handling financial and administrative matters, and then a coordinator, myself, who is overseeing the implementation of activities, evaluation, monitoring, supervisors, budget issues, etc. So a kind of supervisory function, and communicating to the 2 partner organizations that are forming the Protection Desk. The protection training, the security and protection training that Protection Desk is undertaking is based on a security and protection manual devised by Protection International. This is a very concrete approach to security management that gives human rights defenders the skills to analyze their working environment and develop response mechanisms.
The security trainings are interactive and consist of 2 parts. The first one aims at raising awareness on the right to defend human rights. It elaborates on the international instruments at defenders' disposal, like the UN Declaration on Human Rights Defenders. It gives defenders the skills and tools to analyze their own working environment and understand the levels of the risk they're facing. The second part of the training guides defenders in how to achieve an organizational shift toward including security management into all aspects of their work. After the training, PDU is available to give advice in designing and implementing a security plan and conducts follow-up sessions to assess the progress and overcome difficulties.
Since the morning, we called the participants that we last trained in April 2009. This is part 2 of the training. Now we are looking at how to implement the security techniques that they learned in April. So we looked at how has the political situation changed in Uganda since April. We also looked at which activities were they supposed to do that they didn't do, and which ones did they do. This includes drafting the security plan and also developing their security will.
Your security plan is ready right now?
Yeah, it's not actually ready because we are in another office which is not ours. We are sub-renting. So we are shifting next year to our own office. Now with these skills we've acquired from this training, I think we shall be able to have a security plan. But though we've not yet implemented it, at least we have it. We know now how to protect ourselves as human rights defenders. Yeah.
After doing the assignment on the security will, they are going to present to us to see how they can improve the security will, and what obstacles did they meet, and what recommendations do they have for us, such that we can share with other participants how organizations can improve their security will.
The main focus of the Protection Desk are the trainings, as we have said, but that alone would not be sufficient in improving the working environment for human rights defenders. So another set of activities we are undertaking is kind of security briefings for human rights defenders at risk. This means we are approached by human rights defenders who have been receiving threats or who have noticed security incidents happening, and together we analyze the situation and come up with a response strategy. This is more of an ad hoc service or ad hoc strategies to an immediate emergency, and usually if those persons have not received training, we consider them for trainings afterwards. So in future they'll be able to do that themselves. That is one thing. Another important issue we are doing is advocacy, with a focus on improving the protection for human rights defenders, meaning we try to promote the respect of their rights through lobbying of stakeholders, which among others are EU missions, due to the documents and the obligations they have under the EU guidelines, but also other stakeholders. There is a number for the Belgian embassy and send it to Eric's number. You have Eric's number? Okay, so go through my phone. It says Belgian embassy, I think, somewhere. Yeah, thank you.
The European embassies play a key role as they are obliged to implement the provisions of the EU guidelines for the protection of human rights defenders. PDU team members work to establish close relationships with embassies and raise their commitment towards the protection of human rights defenders by implementing the guidelines.
Protection Desk Uganda is a cooperation between Protection International and a local network of human rights defenders called Eastern Horn of Africa Human Rights Defenders Project. The project spans 10 countries. So Protection Desk Uganda, though it has this addition of Uganda, also covers these 10 countries.
Journalists in Tanzania are under serious pressure. They really need a component of security and protection. And most of the human rights defenders who are involved mostly in defense of environment and the LGBTI community. They are under pressure. I think Tanzania would be a good focus for us in areas of advocacy for human rights and security and protection. Most of the organizations we met were requesting to be considered, at least in the first quarter of next year, to have security training. Yeah.
The network has 3 main programs: capacity building, advocacy, and protection. Now, focusing on the protection part, what the network is doing is it is a response to things that have happened to defenders already, meaning they have either been attacked or they have had a level of threat where they need intervention from external actors and support. And that oftentimes is in form of financial and legal and other technical support.
They can expect very fairly a quick intervention when the HRDs are at risk, particularly when a threat to life and dignity of the person arises. EHAHRDP was able to swiftly intervene, relocate the human rights activist from or remove in a position of a danger within a country, or maybe if need be, which is the last resort, outside the country.
Protection Desk Uganda at this point is very open to work with any kind of human rights defenders, and in the year of our existence we have been approached by human rights defenders requesting for our input and expertise on security management. So in future we want to also target trade unions in Uganda. Apparently they are relatively weak, but I think there are efforts from other stakeholders to strengthen them. But then, of course, if that is done, security has to be a component for them, because if they are becoming more prominent on the political scene and the human rights defense environment, then they also need to have effective security strategies.
Protection Desk Uganda, which is a joint program between the Protection International and Eastern Horn of Africa Human Rights Defenders Project, has come to this sub-region strategically and timely. Given what's happening now, there's a dire need of appreciating and knowing the vulnerability of the organizations in terms of security setup. They have been on hand by giving high-level segment of the organizations who are working on the ground kind of holistic, I might say, advice on how they can secure themselves and their premises.
People who are defending ethnic minorities will be something that we have to look into. But another focus will also be, of course, going beyond Uganda and addressing the challenges in other countries of the region that are facing similar, if not even worse, challenges. One case would be Ethiopia, where there is a very restrictive law on human rights work nowadays. There's Sudan, and there's also Rwanda, where there's increasing oppression of human rights defenders. So I think we have a lot to do.